So this week I decided to try something a little bit different and built a display base for some Lord of the Rings miniatures that I painted a few years ago. Building a display base for your minis, whether it's a war band or a kill team or even your D&D party, it's a fun way to practice your crafting chops or even try building some new features that you haven't tried before. And in the end, you get a really nice thing to put on your shelf. That's going to look a lot better than those cluttered minis that are just sitting there taking up all kinds of space. And so I'm going to show you how I built this from scratch, and let's get right into it, okay? Getting started, I've got an 8-inch kind of round board of MDF, and these are the minis that I'm going to use. Have them there for reference. So just cutting the circles into, the foam core board. I'll be honest, there were parts of this build that were a bit of a struggle. Other parts went really easy. We'll get to the stuff I struggled with when we get there, but I was excited for this. I wanted to step away from game stuff for a little bit, and I've been wanting to do something with these Lord of the Rings minis just for fun. So here I'm just building up layers of foam onto this MDF board. I found that the foam core was almost the exact thickness of the plastic bases of the minis. So that's why I just laying down foam core first. And then I want to build up all of that space up for the Hobbit house. So I've got this pink foam. As you can see, I put another layer of the foam core on top of the pink and cut holes in that for the other two minis. Regular old styrofoam just to build up the bulk of the Hobbit house. As you can see, I got Frodo there for size reference. Hot wire cutter to kind of cut out the shape of the house. I found in this build that I am not very good at cutting circles. I am not very good at holding my foam cutter steady. And as you can see, there's, waviness all around, spaces in between the foam. This is just my homemade Sculptamold, ground up paper egg cartons, a little bit of plaster, and water. I did this to just kind of smooth out the bad cut I made on top of the Hobbit house, and then just to smooth out that transition from the lower tier up to the second tier of the foam for the figures. So I didn't use this to cover the whole thing, just used it as you would as a smoothing compound. Now, I figured that the easiest way to create the front of the Hobbit house was just to use a piece of foam core. And that way, I could texture the foam, to put in the bricks around the door and other things. And I think it worked out fairly well. Just refining the shape. Always make sure that you cap your hobby knife, if you have a cap, for safety. Although I do a lot of things in this video that aren't safe. I'm just making sure that it's the right size and it fits right. And just, this whole thing, I eyeballed the whole thing. This is a container for toothpicks that is just about the perfect size for the inside of the door. So I'm using that to mark my circle where I'm going to cut. I thought maybe that it would go through the foam more. It didn't go through the foam at all. It just kind of mushed it down. Note to self, toothpick containers are not sharp enough to cut foam. Not to mention there was still paper on the other side. So even with this perfect circle that I've made, I still could not cut a perfect circle. And I really wish I had tools that would allow me to cut circles, but I get pretty close. And now just the bottom of the paper cup to outline the area where the bricks are going to go around the door. And now I'm just cutting out the individual spots for the bricks and using a pencil to widen them up. Looking for the right sized circles to use to make these things was interesting and fun, so why not the cap on a dropper bottle of paint for the windows? It worked. And I got basically the right size that I wanted for the windows. And once again, I will butcher cutting out the circles. If any of you have any tips for how to cut smooth circles, if you don't have anything that will actually cut a circle, please let me know in the comments. I would greatly appreciate it. And here's what that facade's going to look like. The next thing I did was just covered the entire thing with a mix of Mod Podge and black paint, which is my go-to thing to do, Mod Podge and black paint. I realized later on I probably should have used green, but you live and learn. Here now I'm making the door for the house. I took a piece of balsa wood, cut out a square, roughed it up for texture with a wire brush, and now I'm lightly scoring to what I hope are going to look like boards. That was my intent. Unfortunately, after paint and everything, those lines hid. Even after widening up those cuts with my pencil, they looked fine for now, but after putting on paint and wash and everything, those lines just disappeared, and you can kind of sort of see them. But you get the idea of what I'm going for here. I didn't want to cut out another circle, so I'm just hiding it behind the facade. And of course, Hobbit doors are colorful, and the most common Hobbit door that we know is the one on Bag End, which is green, so I went with green. I do want to point out that this build is not meant to be movie accurate in any way. It's just meant to be recognizable as a Hobbit home. I took some pieces of plot plate for the windows, painted those yellow, and now I'm just painting the front of the thing here with kind of a brick red, a raw sienna yellow for the outer part, and now I'm just kind of creating gradients between yellow and orange to make it look like the windows are being lit from inside. This was fun. Cut out another piece of plot plate, a stripped plot plate, and I used the lighter to soften up parts so that it would curve, and just super gluing it on. I didn't have any dirt to build the path, so I just glued down yellow flocking. I mean, it's what I had, and it worked. A little isopropyl alcohol and watered down PVA glue to lock that down on there. Boom. Then I painted it with a brown. I put some little cork rocks there, and these are just pieces of balsa wood that I'm, eyeballing into place to make a little fence. As you can see, I did take the extra step to paint over all that black green because I wanted a green base to go under the grass that's eventually going to go on there. And just painting, painting, painting. Colors and washes and dry brushing. And so right before I started to glue down the grass, I thought it would be a great idea to make a tree to put on top of the house. Because if I recall correctly from reading the book, seeing the movie, Bag End had a tree on top of it. So I wanted to put a tree on there. And I tried making one from wire. I tried making one out of root bundles from a shrub that I have, and none of that worked. So no tree. I got to brush up on my tree making skills, I think. Another thing that I tried that you'll see later in the video, I busted out some air dry clay. I wanted to make a small post box and some small flower pots. It turns out that my sculpting skills are kind of not very good at all. So I gave up on the mailbox because that just didn't come out right. And the clay flower pots just were lopsided, and no matter how much I tried to sand and file them into something that resembled a flower pot, it didn't work. So you see later I did try to make flower pots out of chopsticks using a cordless drill as a makeshift lathe. Still didn't quite get that right, and instead decided to use them as vases or jars just to put outside in kind of a Legend of Zelda kind of way. And I'm happy with how those came out. So mistakes were made and corrections were had and parts of the project were completely abandoned. So now I'm just gluing on static grass without a static grass applicator because I don't have one. So that just means throwing down some glue and chucking grass at it until it sticks and then knocking off the extra onto a paper towel so that I can easily clean it up and save. I decided that I wanted some little mini mushrooms, and I thought the quickest and easiest way to do that after doing a little bit of research was just to put dollops of hot glue on some parchment paper until they dried. It was a little difficult dealing with the hot glue strings because I didn't want lumps. And this is me using my cordless drill as the lathe. I used a variety of files and my sketching wedge that I use on scale models. Sticking a toothpick underneath the mushrooms, the mushroom heads, and just clipping them off. And you just get these wonderful little teeny tiny mushrooms. Just prime and paint them and they're ready to go. So now it's down to just putting in details. You know, some clump foliage, painted mushrooms going down. The jars that I made on the quote-unquote lathe. Some big grass. And then flowers, tufts, just little decorations. All of my flower tufts are yellow. So I painted a few of them red and a few of them blue just to give some variety. And now the figures go in. This was a fun project, and I'm really happy with the way it came out. I'm sorry for the quality of the video right now, but ugh. And the doorknob is just an earring that I stuck in there. But yeah, this was a fun little project. I love it. I think it looks great. And that's it. Try your own. If you've got a favorite squad, build a display base for them. Why not? Give it a shot. Thank you all for watching, everybody. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we will see you all next week. Bye-bye, everyone.